Hello friends, welcome to episode number 8 of an Italian knitting podcast. This is Francesca. Nice to see you. I am known as an Italian knitter. I feel like that's a fancy way of saying that my username on Instagram and I guess on YouTube is an Italian knitter. I don't feel like I'm very well known by anyone, but anyway, it's a Monday morning for me, but I did want to kind of embrace this pretty lighting and I don't know, try to do something fun before a day of less fun. I'm drinking my cup of coffee. This is a very Italian thing to show, but I'm just pretending. I do not like coffee that much. I rarely drink it, but Monday mornings are kind of the time where I do need the extra caffeine. And I don't know if you can, now you cannot tell, but like this cup is almost full to the brim with coffee. I make my espressos quite long, and so I feel like that's not very Italian, and some people might be judging me right now, some of my fellow Italians, but you do you. You have coffee the way you like, you have tea the way you like, you do you. But today we have the usual finished objects, in progress, plans for the future, things like that, with a little bit of a sprinkled fun. I have, for example, one refinished object, something that I've knitted in the past, and I kind of took a look at it again with a fresh eye and made a modification to it. And I also have one object that will never be finished, but I wanted to show it to you before frogging it, just to have like a testament that things sometimes don't go as planned and it's fine, and everyone has these objects that will never be finished and will be frogged. And before we get started, I just wanted to kind of pass here on the screen somewhere the 3 winners of the giveaway that I hosted during my last episode. The 3 winners have been contacted, and they also replied to me so quickly, like within like a few hours. And so we already arranged for me to send them the patterns. I already sent them to them. I don't think they've started knitting on them, but it would be fun if that happened already. We did chat a little bit over email about this project and like what plans we had for them and kind of my excitement about them actually knitting some of my favorites, and that's it. So thank you for everyone who participated. It was so nice to see all the comments. I feel like I must say the usual thing of I wish I could donate a pattern to each and every one of you. If that was possible, I would do it. I hope to host some more giveaways in the future as well, so that I can kind of say thank you that way. Cool, shall we start? The first finished object I want to show you is the one I'm wearing. This is the Cozy Classic Raglan by Jessie Maed design. It's a Raglan sweater. It's very kind of simple and clean looking. The yarn I used is the Sandnes Garn Double Sunday in the Eucalyptus colorway. I've been showing this yarn, or maybe this in progress sweater as well, over the past kind of like 2 or 3 episodes. I feel like now I have a grasp on how to say eucalyptus, so I'm gonna try to say it again as much as possible to show you that I can speak English. But this pattern is, as I mentioned before, like pretty straightforward and also kind of clean looking. The kind of interesting things might be that the collar, I guess the neckline, is cast on via a tubular cast on, which is the counterpart of the, I guess, more popular tubular cast off, which people love to do for cuffs because it kind of gives you like a rolled over seamless look. I cannot show you this as an example because I never do tubular bind off for any of my stuff, but I did try a tubular cast on, which was like fairly like enjoyable and straightforward to knit, and I will try probably to insert this modification maybe in other projects in the future. I think it was like easy enough. You do it with your regular knitting needles. Instead, when you go for the tubular bind off, you have to kind of scramble to find a needle, and you have to have a super long strand of yarn and use that to kind of bind off everything. But the tubular cast on is nothing like that, just a regular cast on, but it looks very pretty. So I would recommend that to everyone, I think. The bind off that I used is a regular, like super stretchy bind off for the cuffs, and kind of a fairly stretchy bind off for the body, but nothing fancy. A couple of people asked in the comments of my last video what I think are kind of the main differences, I guess, between the cozy classic Raglan and my own favorite no frills sweater. So I brought a sample of the no frills sweater here for you, just to hold something for you while I talk. But I feel like kind of the main differences are that the gauge is different. So the no frills has a 21 stitches per 10 centimeters gauge, while this one has a 18 stitches per 10 centimeters. So the one I'm wearing is a little bit of a lightweight fabric compared to the no frills, not by like a huge amount, but like 3 stitches less makes so that the fabric is a little bit more open, especially because you use kind of the same type of yarn for both. So given the same type of yarn, which is a DK weight yarn, so you kind of have less stitches here in the same area. And the pattern is also written for like a more fitted look. So if you pick the same size in the two patterns, I think you'll find that you'll have a more like loose fitting look with the no frills. While if you go for the cozy classic Raglan, you'll have a slightly more fitted look. Like I think you can see it, especially with the sleeves, they're quite fitted. And so my thoughts here are that the one I'm wearing is a little bit more like appropriate for springtime, because I guess the fabric is slightly lightweight and also the fit is a little bit more narrow. So I think this one would go well like underneath lighter jackets. I have a jean jacket which I think looks very cool on top of this one, and so the sleeves fit very well underneath that one. And I think keep my no frills for like the actual winter time. They're cozier, they're like more dense fabric. You can go for like a wider sleeve. It will still fit under like puffy jackets, for example. So this is my take on these two patterns, just to give you some ideas. And I think you can do whatever you'd like though. Like you can still use this pattern with like a slightly looser gauge for the winter, with maybe like a very cozy yarn like alpaca, and you can still make, for example, I'm assuming like a cotton no frills sweater for the summertime, I guess the springtime, the spring or maybe summer nights. So you do you. That's kind of the hashtag for this podcast, you do you. But yeah, I feel like whenever you're looking at patterns, just maybe take a look at the gauge and compare it to other stuff that you have knitted in the past, and that I think helps understanding the possible drape of the pattern or the density of the fabric. I think that helps a little bit. That's it. What else would you like to know about this sweater? That I paid 60 euros for the yarn. I think that's a little bit like top of my budget usually for knitted sweaters, but I do love the coziness. This is Merino, and I have not knitted with Merino in maybe a year or so, maybe more, like in a few months. And when I was knitting on this, I was like feeling in heaven. It was so smooth, so nice, so kind of soft on my fingers, that I think just for the knitting experience it was much worth it. But also for the wear and the, I don't know, the softness. I mean, I really love it. It won't probably be my go-to yarn for all future sweaters because I mean 60 euros, I don't know, I feel like it depends what's your budget and how much you want to invest on each sweater. I feel like for me, I might do it again, but it won't become like my go-to, like every sweater needs to be done in this yarn. But I would recommend that you try at least once if it fits in your budget. 60 euros is for this size small. The leftover that I have, which is just under one bowl of yarn, not much less than a bowl of yarn, will join the rest of my other like cozy DK weight leftovers / yarn that I had extra. They will all together work to create sweater for my daughter. The other yarn is actually what I've used for the no frills sweater that I just showed, and that's the Drops Lima. It has some alpaca in it, so it'll be very cozy. I'll knit on this in the fall, autumn season after the summer. I do not want to knit on this right now. And I think what I'll be doing with these two colors is probably something like this. So this is the teddy bear sweater by PetiteKnit, and the sweater pattern doesn't have like any color blocking or anything like that. It's just in one solid color. But what I've done here is I mixed two colors in a very like sharp, clean line. And I do like this technique because you can just finish one color and when you're done, go with another one. Well, if you do like stripes or marling or I don't know, like some fading technique, you need to plan a little bit better. But color blocking, you can just knit until you're done with one color and go with the next one. So I might do the same thing with the gray and green leftover yarns that I have, or I might do something like stripes. There's a sweater pattern for kids that I quite like the look of, and it's called Go Get Them, and I will put everything on the screen right now, and it has like stripes, and so I might want to try that. We'll see. You won't see anything knitted in those yarns in the next months. We'll talk about it in September, October probably. Quick sip of rest of my espresso, and we're gonna move on to the second finished object that I have for today. I will have to do a little striptease, not on camera probably. Sorry, bye. There we go. So this is the Cumulus tee by PetiteKnit. It's, I think, again, same vibe of the last sweater. Like, this is a very simple, clean looking knit. Nothing fancy, no cables, no lace, just a pretty straightforward looking tee. The yarn I used, it's Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino in the colorway Dark Ocher. And this was the first time for me using Knitting for Olive. And I think I've heard about this brand quite a lot. I loved it. I think it was so easy to knit on it, even though it has lots of cotton. It also has a good amount of merino, which kind of helps the knitting experience. Like your fingers are not like super dry after knitting with 100% cotton. It really helps you enjoy the knitting process as well. And the final object is quite like soft and drapey. It also quite cozy. I don't think this will be, I truly know that this won't be like a full hot summer knit because it has merino, and I can really tell that it's quite like a cozy-ish t-shirt. I think would be perfect for the spring or maybe like summer nights, like fresher, chiller summer nights. And it's a raglan construction. It has I-cords on every edge. So at the collar here, at the sleeves, the bottom of the sleeves, words are escaping me, and even at the bottom edge. Construction is very easy. You do this first top part flat to allow for the V-neck. So there's no way, I guess, for you to actually knit in the round this part, the very top part here, because you need to kind of allow for this part to be open, the neckline to be a V-neck. So you do knit flat up until here, but then when you join everything in the round, then you go with the flow, and it's glorious and it's beautiful, and you can do other stuff in the meantime, which, as you know probably by now, is kind of one of my favorite knitting experience. The final price for this amount of yarn, which is 4 balls of cotton merino, was 27 euros and a few cents. 27 euros for a shirt, I think it's doable for me. So I'm okay splurging a little bit with like fancier yarn if the garment is smaller and it's not like a full-on giant oversized sweater. I want to try the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, which is a very similar weight of yarn as the cotton merino, but it's pure silk, like 100% silk. And it's actually the yarn that was recommended for this pattern. So I might try that too, and that would be, I think, very appropriate for actual summer. And they have also very truly beautiful colors. Regarding modifications that I've done for this pattern, there are truly none that were intentional. So no intentional modifications, but I had to do one tiny adjustment to make things work for me. And so what happened is that I have muscles in my arms. This is so weird, what am I doing? So a couple of decades ago, I was a gymnast, and I feel like I still have kind of the body structure. I did the I-cord bind off and I tried it on, and it was a little bit too tight for me. And I think that's truly because of my arms. They have more volume than I think kind of the rest of my body in proportion. So all the other edges are perfectly fine, but this one was a little bit tight. So I kind of dreaded it. I put it aside for a couple of days, and one night I poured myself a glass of wine and I sat down on the sofa ready to redo all the I-cord bind-offs, which are not like difficult, but they are quite like lengthy process, so a little bit boring. I didn't want to do it. Anyway, so what I've done is I unweaved in my ends, so I removed the weaving of the ends, and so what that did is kind of the two sides, the beginning and the end of the I-cord kind of split. So I was like, idea, can it be done? Like, can this like 2 additional centimeters of ease be enough for my arms to be comfortable? And that's what we did. So what I've done is just I didn't attach the beginning and the end of the I-cord, and so that it made it a little slit. It doesn't look very good. You have a little bit of a slit, I think that's the right word, and that's enough for my arm to have more space, and that fits beautifully. So it's very comfortable. So instead of redoing the entire I-cord and be like a looser, I just decided that I was okay with the slit, and so I just weaved in my ends without connecting the I-cord. Why am I showing you my armpit? Is that a good armpit? That's it. So I'm okay with this because it's kind of underneath my armpit area, or at least kind of the bottom part of my arm, and I think no one will look there, or even if they do, I don't think they will be like super concerned with the tiny slit. So I feel like you do have 2 types of knitters who will not accept this and will kind of re-knit the entire I-cord, or knitters like me who will go with the flow and not re-knit everything. That was kind of the alteration that I did. Not intentional, but I made it work in the end. I think I mentioned it before, but I would like to knit at least another one. I think one in pure silk by Knitting for Olive. It's much needed in my wardrobe. I think I might want to do shorter sleeves. I don't know, actually. I quite like. These are, I think, longer than my regular sleeves on my v-neck t-shirts that I have in my wardrobe, but I don't know. You can always try this on because this is a top-down Raglan construction, so you can always kind of slip it on and kind of see if you like it in your mirror and adjust the length. You could also probably knit the entire sleeve and make it into a blouse. So with the same pattern, you could also just continue and do maybe an I-cord at the cuff here, maybe like a shorter sleeve, not like a full length one, maybe like a 3/4 sleeve. I think that would be quite pretty and cute and appropriate for the springtime. Okay, we can move on to the refinished object that I mentioned before. I actually already put out a knitting vlog, or I guess just a vlog for this process that I went through. But what I've done is I've taken my Novice sweater that I've knit with random yarn that was donated to me, and I made it into a cardigan. I don't know if it goes well with this color underneath, but just pretend this is not bothering you. So this is a cardigan that I made out of a sweater. So I did the steeking process here in the very middle, and I attached some buttons, and this is the result. You can go watch my vlog if you want to know how the steeking process went. The process was very chill and relaxed because I didn't care too much about the actual sweater. So I went ahead and trusted the process a little bit, and also I was chill because in case something happened to the sweater, I was not gonna be heartbroken. Because I mean, this sweater is nice looking, but I used like yarn that was being donated to me because it was not gonna be used, and I do not love the color transition, for example. So I was okay experimenting with this garment. So I did a little bit of reinforcements. I did knit the button bands. I put on buttons, and I went ahead and cut down the middle. It was a pretty exciting process. And I think I am now more confident in actually doing a steek garment on purpose. So I would see myself now knit in the round in the form of a sweater, but with already the plan to go ahead and cut and make it into a cardigan. So I'm okay now, I think, do some planned steeking. This instead was a little bit more of an afterthought steeking, honestly. I think it still was very fun, and I liked the final result. I don't think I love the neckline. I think for cardigans, I usually really like cardigans that have, what is this called? Like a V-neck shape, like a deep V-neck shape. This would be my preferred shape for a cardigan collar or neckline. Yeah, this was very fun. Before moving into works in progress, what I'd like to unapologetically share is an object that will never be finished. This is the THEA top by Susanne Müller, also known as Paulastrickt. Sorry for the pronunciation. I think she's German, and I do not speak German in the slightest. I'm not gonna even try to pretend that I know how to pronounce that. So this is the beginning of a THEA top. I think I would be almost done. I would have to knit the bottom here. So the yarn that I used is Rowan recycled denim, who has a vast majority of cotton and a teeny tiny bit of like other fibers. I'm assuming there's denim, I don't know what else, but it is a little bit of a stiff fabric. So the issue of the combination between the yarn and the pattern is that, like, I think the fabric is too stiff for this vest looking summer top. So it really gives the vibe of a very structured vest, and it doesn't give me the vibes that I saw on the official pattern pictures. So I feel like for this top, you would want to use probably a more lightweight yarn. So this is a worsted weight, and it's cotton, and it's quite kind of thick and it has body to it. So you can knit this pattern with worsted weight, which is what I have, but you can also knit it with sport weight using the same gauge. So with sport weight, which is thinner, you would definitely have like a more drapey fabric. And I think the pattern pictures are actually probably the version with sport weight yarn. And I think that's why the pattern pictures look much kind of like drapey and like relaxed and a kind of summer vibe or spring vibe. This to me feels like a vest. A vest looking summer top needs to have drape to feel like a summer top. I don't know if I was clear, but hopefully yes. The intent that I have is to just frog this and use this yarn to actually make a market bag. So Paulastrickt, so Susanne Müller, so the same designer, has a pattern for a knitted market bag, which I'm very interested in, and I think this yarn was very like sturdy and has it like toothy, is that the right word? I don't know, but like I think it would be perfect for a bag, and I've always wanted to knit one of those market bags with all the holes. I've seen lots of crochet patterns for those bags, and I think this one is the only pattern that I was able to find that was knitted, and I like that it's the same designer so that we can kind of go full circle. So we tried her top and we're gonna try again with her bag and see how it goes. But yeah, Paulastrickt has at least 4 or 5 summer tops that look amazing, very similar to this one. So all of them have like no sleeves, if I remember correctly. I'll put some pictures for you, but they're all very pretty. They look very pretty in the pictures. So we're gonna try, I think, a couple more and see if we can find the right yarn combination and see how they look. For me, this was a little bit of a fail, honestly. And I've actually looked through some of the project pages on Ravelry, and I think a few people have kind of mentioned the same notes, like the fact that this feels like a vest and not like a flowy summer top. So one interesting thing about this pattern in terms of construction is also one thing that I didn't love. So the edges, so the armholes, armbands, and the neckline here are worked with lots of steps. So what you do is you go with a crochet hook around the edges, and you do a little bit of a reinforcement, and then you go with your knitting needles and you pick up stitches inside the crochet chain that you just did. Then you knit the ribbing, and then you do a tubular bind off. So it actually takes more to do the finishing than to actually knit all of this. And it took more mental strength too, because it's quite like a lengthy and boring process for me. I do not like picking up stitches. I think this yarn doesn't let the pattern shine that much, but I think the result was good in terms of finishings. To make the crochet reinforcements around all the edges, I actually had to buy a crochet hook. I had 0 crochet hooks before, and now I have one. I just bought like a single one. This is from the brand Clover. It has great reviews because I think it's like very soft, not soft, but like it's not like a raw metal that you need to use, but it has like this plasticky, probably plasticky body. And I got like a 4mm hook, which is what was recommended in the pattern, and I think this is technically US 6. And hopefully I can use it in the future again. It might be helpful, right, to do some stuff here and there. I don't know, I never used a crochet hook. I didn't have a crochet hook, and I never felt the need of one, so I don't think I will use it that much in the future, but I don't know, I think I'll keep it here. I'm sorry for the lighting. Today is not great. I think I have like very harsh lighting on my face, but you'll forgive me, right? So in terms of works in progress, I have only one for you today, and this is a camisole. So I'll show you and then we'll talk. So this is an in progress Cumulus top, which is a camisole. So it looks very, very simple. It has triangles at the top, in the front and the back. So the front and the back are exactly the same. And for now, I just tied some knots here at the top just to make it look like a camisole. But I need to go and finish up those edges there. And I'm almost done. I think I need to do maybe like a couple more centimeters, maybe less. The good thing again is that you can try it on and adjust the length to your body. So I didn't have any plan to knit the Cumulus top pattern because I do not love the look of it. I think, and I'll insert pictures from the official pattern, I do not like the look of the triangles here. I think they're not super well fitted to the model, to the body of the model. I'm not sure, so I didn't know how it would look on me. So I didn't want to actually knit it. However, what happened is that I went to my local yarn store to give back some of my leftover yarn that I had. So this local yarn store is actually, I think, the only one that I know of that takes back yarn. And so you can bring back unused balls of yarn and they will give you store credit. So they won't give you the actual money back on your credit card or cash back, but you can then use that credit to buy something else, which is as good as money for me, honestly. So I went back, I gave back the unused balls of yarn that I had, and I asked for some fingering summer yarns, so something like cotton, linen, silk, something along those lines, but there was fingering, and the owner kind of looked at me very like, huh? Like, why would you want to knit with fingering with yarn? It was so funny. I think then she explained to me that people don't really use fingering that much, or at least here, or in my area, or in Italy, I'm not sure, because it takes a long time to finish stuff. And so she doesn't stock, or she doesn't keep in stock almost anything that's fingering, and so she didn't have lots of things for me to choose from. But she did retrieve from the back of the store a few skeins for me, but she did say that those were well suited or better suited for crochet, given the way that the yarn is spun. It looks like a thread. I'm gonna show you the skein, not the skein, the bowl. I don't know what this is called. It is like a thread, and it feels like dental floss. It feels like a thick dental floss. That's my explanation. So I think it was still like worth it for me probably to try. This was still a good choice for me, but then when I brought it home and kind of swatched with it, I didn't love it, and I feel like I couldn't really knit the original pattern that I had in mind for this yarn, which was the Maya summer top. That top is beautiful, I really like that, and I do want to knit it in the future, but when I tried with this yarn, I found that this was so slippery because of this kind of thread-like consistency, and it wasn't great for me to do like complicated kind of cables and lace work and everything, because I fear that I was gonna mess the pattern up somehow by like missing a stitch, like a stitch would come off from my needles. Even just knitting the swatch was a little bit difficult, so I was like, I'm gonna abandon my Maya summer top plans for this specific yarn. And so I went on Ravelry and looked for the most basic camisole pattern that I could find, which was mostly stockinette, and my girl PetiteKnit didn't disappoint me as always, and so we're kind of now knitting the camisole because of that reason. This is a very in the round stockinette project, so even if a stitch comes off from my needle because the yarn is very slippery, I can easily kind of pick it up and put it back on my needle. I can fix stockinette. I'm confident enough to fix stockinette stitches. Even if I have a ladder, I can kind of fix that. But I would not feel confident to use this slippery yarn with complicated stitch patterns, so we're here. The meh part is that I have the same yarn in a different color. This is, I think, a mustard. It's brighter than a classic mustard, but it is in the mustard kind of color family, and it's the same exact type of yarn. I didn't even mention it because I don't think I would recommend it, but this is Torre Filati. It's called Cablé 5. It's an Italian brand. I think if you crochet, you might know of this type of yarn, like a thread yarn that it's recommended for crocheting. And I think I'll have to knit another one of these very simple camisoles, Or maybe now that I worked with this yarn a little bit, maybe I can try to do like a slightly more complicated camisole. Maybe I can do camisole number 4. I might try swatching because I feel like maybe now that I got used to work with this yarn a little bit, I can do something slightly more complicated than stocking it in the round. Maybe, not sure. We'll find out after maybe try to swatch with this one. About the Cumulus top, which in my mind I call like a Cumulus camisole, sorry. What happens here is that you knit those 4 triangles, so 2 at the back and 2 at the front, or vice versa, they're all the same. And then you connect all 4 in the round and you start knitting your beautiful stockinette body that I really love. And then after that you do like an I-cord edge all around. It is a fairly simple I-cord edge. It doesn't have decreases, but it requires for you to pick up stitches along all this beautiful edge before you actually knit the I-cord. And so not my favorite, but I do like kind of the final result. It's very pretty. It's a very pretty edging. So we'll see after I finish everything how it looks all together. I'll show you during my next episode. But so far I like it. I appreciate that it's a very simple project. Again, you can sit there and knit for ages without looking down. And I can always use, I think, like a camisole. I have a couple of like long skirts that I think would pair well with like a simple camisole, or maybe like jeans. I think this is kind of versatile. So I'm happy that I knit this one. We'll see how it looks on me with all the kind of finishes. I did try it on and I think it looks okay. For now, I would not say if I do recommend this pattern. I want to see how it looks at the end. But I think I want to say that I do not recommend this yarn for knitting. Sorry. I think last step that we're gonna go through today is I'd like to show you a little bit of acquisitions, and I'm gonna start with stitch markers that I received from Athena from We Grow Wild. I love supporting her and her craft. She does lots of wooden handmade pieces, like even earrings and other stuff, and I'll link her Ko-Fi page down below if you want to see what she's selling right now. But this is kind of a stitch marker that I'm using there. These are lovely. I think wooden stitch markers are not something that I had in my knitting supplies, and I really love that. And they remind me of her. Like, I think I like the fact that when I look at them, they remind me of Martina, and her podcast that she has here on YouTube is so relaxing and inspiring. She lives in a beautiful place out in the countryside. She goes on walks and knits and sits outside, and when I look at them, they kind of give me a little bit of that vibe, which I really enjoy. And I'm mostly a very anxious person. I feel stressed all the time, and so looking at these while knitting gives me a little bit more like peace of mind almost. And the set that I bought also comes with some teeny tiny seashells stitch markers, and I plan to use these ones when I knit kind of in the July and August months, and I'll be probably like near the beach. We have rented an apartment for August nearby kind of the beach, and so I plan to use these ones specifically on my very summer knits in summer looking at the beach. Boom, full circle. This is also an acquisition, so I have this thread-like yarn from my local yarn store that I do not recommend that much. I'm gonna throw it away. So the last acquisition, something that I'd like to show you, is I acquired some bowls of Drops Muscat. I think this is the off-white color. Technically it's color number 8, and this is cotton. So this is 100% mercerized cotton, and it's very shiny. And I plan to knit a leafinity top with this one. Again, kind of following Martina's lead. She has also a vlog where she knits the leaf top in the similar yarn. I think this is the same exact drops muscat. I will knit mine in the round. She used the version of the pattern where you knit flat all the pieces and you seam them together, but I will use the version of the pattern who is knitted in the round because I cannot be bothered to knit stuff flat and then seam them. And I think this will go quite fast. This, I think, is technically a Aran weight yarn, so I think it'll go much faster than like fingering, which I've used recently, so we'll see the difference, and it'll also give me the opportunity to do a little bit of lace work. I plan to sew on some buttons on the fake button band that will come up in the patterns. I will knit in the round, so there's no kind of cardigan style anything in my future project, but I think I will still kind of make some knit stitches here at the front to mimic a button band, and I actually have a good amount of very teeny tiny buttons that I've never used. I bought these ones to apply onto a shawl from Andrea Maury, which I've never knitted in the end because it was a little bit boring. And so I started and then frogged very soon, but this could be my chance to actually use them. So I think they'll go well with like a white background, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna swatch and then put the teeny tiny button on the fabric and see if it looks nice, but I feel like I can already tell that it does look nice. And so this pattern will give me the opportunity to use a handful of these buttons that I don't know what to do with. And that will be it for today. I think I bored you enough. I told you lots of things today, so you can go now, but I thank you for participating in my giveaway in the last episode, if you did, or just for like stick around here and like hear me talking. Let me know what you're working on, if you've moved on to summer knits or you are still doing sweaters and long sleeves things. And I'll see you next time. Bye, friends.